We interrupt our program to bring you this important message.
We set out a long time ago talking about doing one thing. And one thing first, before we talked about anything else. Congratulations, NFC North Champs right there. But what I love about it the most, all right, when we came in this locker room at halftime, it couldn't get much worse. We couldn't have done more to allow that other team to win the football game. But I just felt it. I felt each and every one of you. I felt the captains with your C's on your chest, understanding that we were about to go break an all-time regular season or playoff record for comeback victory to win. When I tell you guys, I love you. I mean it from the bottom of my heart. And that will never change. I will ride with this group until they don't let us play any more games. So bring it in tight, and then I want to hear you guys celebrate the 2022 NFC North Championship.
What the hell did we witness on Saturday? Holy crap, guys.
A little bit of everything in that one, huh?
Yeah, you could say that. I guess no better way to celebrate the 1000th game in franchise history than to start off the game with one of the most epic collapses in team history and then finish it off with the greatest comeback in NFL history. No team had ever come back from more than 32 points down, which of course was that
Frank Reich
game against I think it was still the Oilers. It was still the Oilers then. Back in 1994, I think it was 92. Of course, the Vikings went down, like we said, 33-0 at halftime, causing the entire fan base in the state of Minnesota to collectively lose their minds. Well deserved. But they pulled it all together in the locker room at halftime. And I know they said Patrick Peterson went up to the offense and said, all you guys have to do is score 5 touchdowns and we'll take care of the rest. Well,
right. That's nothing.
Yeah, that's nothing. Well, they did.
This offense is capable of doing that. They proved it yesterday, obviously,
and
on Saturday.
This is what you and I have talked about ever since the start of the season. And if this offense is clicking on all cylinders, there isn't anybody in the league that's going to stop them.
No.
And
this offense is capable of being better than Kansas City's offense, in my opinion, easily.
Yeah. Well,
if it's clicking on all cylinders.
Yep. And then for as much maligned as the defense is, we do have to give them credit as well, because they only gave up 3 points in the second half.
Yeah.
And realistically,
you know what? As bad as the first half was, they didn't give up A lot of those points weren't on their shoulders.
No.
They did play like crap, though. I'm not going to give them any slack. They did play like shit, but
Right.
a lot of the points weren't in spite of that, or was not because of them.
Yeah, you had the block punt return for a touchdown. You had the pick six. You had, a couple other things that set them up in a short field where they got field goals. But
that second half, that defense really, honestly, it's been the defense I've been wanting to see all season. They tightened up hardcore, and we're calling man defense that you weren't seeing at all.
Yeah, and oh my God, who would have thunk if you blitz, you get it? It works.
He was mixing up his play calls. That's the best defensive. That was the best defensive showing in the second half for us all year this year.
Yeah. And that's what we've been asking for from this defense, from especially like the last 6 weeks.
If Donatello wants his players to believe in the scheme, then he's got to believe in his players.
Exactly. But yeah, like I said, it was one for the ages. We'll move in. Since we're
we'll wing it, but we're good. Don't worry, we'll be all right.
Just a little disclaimer here: we're actually recording this on Sunday night.
Rhino has a vacation in Florida this week.
Yes, because yours truly will be gone until sometime on Thursday. So in order to get the show in for you guys, we're recording it on Sunday since the Vikings played on Saturday.
So we apologize if we miss any small things here or there throughout the week.
Right, but we'll make do here, and we're just going to wing it a little bit.
That's what she said.
So
Giants are actually playing right now as we speak.
Yep, and at last check, the Commanders were ahead 3-0. But we'll talk about the Giants later. We'll get more into the
Colts game.
The Colts game here now. Kirk Cousins, 65 yards in the first half, finished the game with 460 yards, which is a career high.
Yeah, 400 of those come in the second half. Yeah.
Threw 4 touchdowns, did have 2 interceptions, both of which I don't blame Kirk for. They were screw ups by Jalen Reagor. The first one, he ran the wrong route. And the second one, he gave up on the route.
They told him he had to go to the sideline. Jefferson understands what's at stake. Cousins does as well as he loads it up and throws an interception. Rodney Thomas perfectly there and underneath the long ball from Cousins for his second pick.
Jalen stopped running. I don't know if they just weren't on the same page. Oh, man.
Cousins was looking for it. Reagor had the position. Thomas has the pick. It'll be deep in their own territory, but
a royal sin at the receiver position. You don't ever stop on a route.
Right. But we won't worry about that right now. Cousins on the day, though, 34 of 54, 460 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 2 interceptions. Again, like Lance said, 400 of those yards came in the second half. That is a career high for Kirk.
Cousins has had his finest hour this last week and into this week.
Well, yeah, in the last 2 weeks, he has thrown for 885 yards. Which, coincidentally, with that 460-yard performance on Saturday, he moves into 3rd all-time in Vikings history for passing yards, passing Dante Culpepper. Now only trails Tommy Kramer and Fran Tarkington.
Right.
He's about 4,000 yards behind Kramer, so he potentially could pass Tommy next year.
Yeah.
Tarkington is still like 10 to 12,000 yards ahead of him, so odds are he won't get that far. But anyway, again, I guess like we mentioned, both interceptions. I'm not blaming Kirk for those fall on the feet of Reagor as far as I'm concerned. But then over to the receivers, Justin Jefferson, another 100-yard game, 12 catches, 123 yards, and a touchdown, basically still keeping him on pace for that 2,000-yard season he's chasing.
I knew a lot of us were pretty worried in that first half when it ended. Oh my God, he's not going to get much for yards this week.
Yeah, well, and with this, he had 1,500 coming in, so he's at 1,623 now.
And he's 9 yards away from Moss's single season.
Yep. So with 10 yards against the Giants on Saturday, he will surpass Randy Moss's
He
team
prophesized
record.
that shit in the offseason, didn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then, as we said, if he can average what he got last week, he will at least flirt with that 2,000-yard. And
I wouldn't be surprised if he had himself another 200-yard game here before the end of the year, to be honest.
I mean, the last two, it could happen this weekend. The last two will be a little more difficult outside in the elements, both in Green Bay
That's
and
true.
Chicago. So be nice to see him catch Calvin Johnson's record at least. But
It'd be nice to see him break the record in 16 weeks just so everybody can't fucking put an asterisk next to his name.
yeah, but as like Chris Carter said earlier in the week on somebody's show he was on, there are records that stand now that the old record was done when when teams played 14 games and there's no
Right.
asterisks or any of that other stuff. So it's just the nature of the game. But as good as Justin Jefferson's game was, KJ Osborne was even better. Career day for KJ, 10 catches, 157 yards and a touchdown.
Cousins. Here's a deep shot. Wide open. KJ Osborne in stride. Osborne on his feet inside the 10. First and goal, Vikings. Third and goal. Cousins.
Wide open.
Perfectly delivered. KJ Osborne. Touchdown, Vikings.
KJ was the catalyst yesterday to everything.
Yep. And he very easily could have had another 40 yards on top of that. Had that one
Not touch the ground.
catch that was called incomplete on review, which
I think
can't-
it was. It bounced up into his chest once he hit the ground.
I can't argue, I guess, one way or the other. It was very
That was the
close.
one call that the refs had right yesterday, honestly, in my opinion.
Yeah, and we'll get into some of that in a minute here too when we get over to the defensive side of things. But then beyond Osborne, Dalvin Cook had himself a nice bounce back game. 17 rushes for 95 yards with a long of 40. Of course, that 40-yard run was followed up on the very next play by a fumble. But he also had 4 receptions for 95 yards and a touchdown, including the all but game tying 64-yard screen pass.
Who would have thought
late in
this
the fourth
screen
quarter.
pass would go for a touchdown?
Timeouts remaining. They're going to set up the screen with Dalvin Cook and let him chew up the yards. Dalvin Cook! There he goes! Dalvin Cook is going to be caught up with blockers inside the 5. Touchdown! 64 yards! Magic in Minneapolis!
This week was the first time all season the screen game has worked.
And it
There was-
looked good.
Yeah, there was 4 or 5 really nice screens that got us good chunks of yards this weekend.
The thing about that screen pass to Cook was the beautiful thing was seeing Cleveland down there blocking for him into the end zone.
Yep. And then, of course, he got down about the 2 or 3 yard line, and Cook carried a Colts defender into the end zone.
He willed himself into the end zone
He
for
did.
sure.
He absolutely did.
And it's plays like that you love to see get finished because you know how goddamn hard it is to put it in from the 1 or 2.
Mm-hmm. And
It
we've proven
is.
that the last few weeks, how, that we get down there at that goal line, and it's tough to punch it in with.
It's nothing I respect more than players fighting for you. I mean, smartly fighting for yards downfield as they get contact.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah.
KJ Osborne's beautiful with that,
Yeah.
by the way. Now always has been.
Yep. And this was a sign again this past weekend of what KJ Osborne can be. We've kind of
He's been waiting in his brain for a game like this for himself. He's been waiting to have this game.
well, and O'Connell even said the same thing afterwards. He said he knew that, and Kirk did as well. That Osborne has this in him, it's just, hard to get him the throws and
He
stuff.
plays like he has something to prove, and I love it.
Mm-hmm.
And he kind of does. He's playing behind two great receivers.
Right. Now, of course, Adam Thielen isn't the receiver he used to be. Still very sure-handed and great possession receiver. He just doesn't have the speed anymore that he once did.
And I'm not honestly sure he gets targeted as much as he did either.
No, but I mean, Jefferson has taken over as the superstar.
And that's what happens.
Right. It was the same thing when Chris.
But when he
Carter
does
was
get
here
targeted, he hauls it in.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's still as sure-handed as he ever was, but I guess anything else you want to talk about on the offensive side of things before we move over to the defense?
No, I think we're good there. Yeah.
Okay.
Running it through my brain. If I remember it, I'll obviously pop it in later, but
Right.
continuing along.
All right. Over the defensive side of things, for the first time in 6 weeks, we did not give up 400 plus yards of offense. We did give up 341 yards, which still 75 yards less than what we gave up last week. So
That's true.
held them to 170 yards passing, but we did give up 171 yards on the ground. So, which with Jonathan Taylor going out early,
It's another thing too.
it still giving up that many yards with their backup running backs in is not really a good thing. But I mean, went to back to the bend but don't break thing. That the defense only gave up one offensive touchdown.
Right. All game. Yeah.
They're held them to, was it 5 field goals? Otherwise, the other 2 touchdowns came on the block punt and the.
There was a time there they should have kicked the field goal and they didn't.
Mm-hmm.
Had they done that, the game would have been over if it went through.
But then, as we mentioned, whatever the light bulb moment in the locker room at halftime, they finally started getting pressure on the quarterback in the second half. We ended up with, I believe it was 3 sacks. Kendricks had 1. Zadarius Smith had half a sack. Hunter had a sack and a half, plus 4 quarterback hits.
Yeah.
Interesting stat here. After a season average blitz rate of 17.3% of dropbacks,
More than
on Saturday, the blitz rate was 40.5.
yeah, more than doubled that.
Yep.
Thank you for giving us what we want, Donatel. And now
Well,
that
it's what we
did that,
needed.
you've got results.
Right. Beyond that, Cameron Dantzler did not play because of an illness. So Duke Shelley stepped in, played every defensive snap. Had
a good fucking game.
Had 2 pass defenses, a couple of key stops on 3rd down. And he was actually the highest graded defensive player on the Vikings from PFF, 83.9.
His technique is no joke. It's pretty fucking sound.
Mm-hmm. I think he's a sneaky good pickup. We got lucky to get him. I mean,
Yeah, he is right. He flew under the radar, and he's still getting better.
mhm.
He's a veteran, but he's still developing a little bit because he's never been given that, all the snaps in one game like he was given against the Colts. And he took complete advantage of it. And like I said, that his technique is exactly what you asked for out of a corner.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you and I were talking about this during the game. The kid's got a little Antoine Winfield type to him.
He's got some pop to him.
Now, don't come in and preposterous statement me think I'm not saying he's Antoine Winfield, but I'm saying he's got some similar qualities and some similar abilities.
The thing is though, you're not the only person I've heard that said that either. There's a couple other fans I've also heard that have uttered that name when it comes to Duke Shelley as well.
Yeah.
He's got some bite to him, dude.
He does.
Sure.
And he's been a very sound pickup, and we've been lucky to have him with the cornerback issues we've had this year.
He's kind of a smaller player, but he knows how to use his body to his advantage without getting hurt at the same
Yeah.
time.
Well, I mean, Winfield was the same way.
Right.
But speaking of cornerbacks, I feel so bad for Chandon Sullivan this week.
North. Colts looking to stay alive in playoff contention. And Deion Jackson. Oh, ball comes out. There go the Vikings. It's going to go all the way in. Chandon Sullivan. Take another look here.
That ball popped out early. That ball popped out early. There's no way this is a close call. That ball popped out early in the play. That should be a scoop and score, fumble recovery. Zadarius Smith popped it out. Chandon Sullivan picked.
That guy, well, he got hosed not once on a fumble return for a touchdown, but twice.
Well, you know what? He let the world know after the game how unhappy he was about getting hosed on those two fucking.
Yeah,
rightfully so.
Yeah, he went out on Twitter afterwards and demanded an explanation as to why the hell those two were not touchdowns.
That referee crew was just a joke.
Oh,
it was the joke of the day.
They were awful. I mean, but this is 2 weeks in a row now where we've had plays blown dead prematurely. You know, it was the Jefferson touchdown last week. They got called, and Sullivan's, both of his were blown down early. Leave the fucking whistle out of your mouth. Let the play go.
Right.
I mean, that first one forward progress was not stopped.
No.
And on the second one, it was a clear recovery. He was not down. Nobody was down that had the ball.
The ball was on the ground before he was even tackled.
Yeah. And nobody recovered it on the ground and was touched by anybody.
In your normal tackle scuffle.
Right.
That you would see any other play.
Yeah. And then there was, and here again, I hate complaining about the officiating because, and I'm not.
This officiating yesterday warrants complaints.
Yeah, it does. It was god awful. That, and I forget who it was, made the comment that these guys they need to call the XFL, the USFL or whatever, see if they have.
Paul Allen said that yesterday in the radio broadcast.
Did he?
Yes, he did.
Is that where that came from? Okay. I remember hearing it someplace yesterday, but after that game and everything was just such a blur, I forget who said what and where.
Yeah, PA said that in his broadcast over the radio.
Yeah, it was one of the rare times when Paul Allen lost it and went away from being his normal positive self to actually vividly ripping. He was ripping the team in the first half, and then he was tearing into the officials left and right too. So kind of a departure for PA, which good to see because
Burchich was losing it too up there as well, but and rightfully so. I was losing it too.
Absolutely.
That was some bullshit.
Yeah, I mean but
game-changing plays. That's 14 points to take off the board.
Yeah. But I mean, we were thankfully able to overcome not only the horrendous first half start, but those horrible calls on top of it to win the game, secure the NFC North for the first time since 2017. And,
the only way the 2022 Vikings know how.
Yeah.
In dramatic fashion.
In heart attack fashion.
I've never had pains like this before. Oh, this is the worst one I ever had, son. Oh, it's the worst one. This is a big one. I'm dying. You hear that, Elizabeth? I'm coming to join you, honey.
But anything else defensively you want to talk about? I got a few other things here, but we'll move.
No, not really.
Okay. Special teams wise, of course, we had that block punt.
As Stephon Gilmore said, there's no real mentality of that. They know that there are days. Oh, we've got a block here. Here comes Indianapolis on the special teams. They're going to take it in. JoJo Doman with the recovery and the scoop and score on the block. And the Colts with the quick blitz on the Vikes here in Minneapolis.
Probably the worst special teams showing of the year.
Yeah, first play of the game on the kickoff, they returned the ball to the 50-yard line. I mean, that was kind of a harbinger of things to come there. But it was a poor showing by most of the special teams. Now,
but at the end of the day, the entire team as a whole cleaned all that up.
Yep. Now, in contrast, so Greg Joseph again for the third week in a row made all of his kicks, including that 40-yarder in overtime.
I told you,
to
man.
Secure the win.
I said, watch him catch fire now for the rest of the year. What was it, 2 episodes back?
Yeah, 2 or 3, something like that. Yeah.
And ever since then, he has caught fire.
Mm-hmm. So, we'll give kudos to Joseph. We ripped him badly a few weeks ago, but credit where credit is due.
The phantom face mask call on the punt return too.
That was bullshit.
Gaff.
It wasn't a face mask. His arm went across. It wasn't even.
Chris Boyd's a gangster, dude. He is a bad man. I mean, you can tell that he's got some of that.
He's a hell of a special
boy
teamer.
attitude inside of him.
Mm-hmm.
I see players constantly, and then go back to last year with Barr saying, "Get your fucking ass off the field."
Yeah,
that was like Chris Boyd.
Yeah,
yeah, dude. There's when you got people pulling him off the field, but I like that. I like that aggressiveness, but at the same time, you don't want that to hurt you as a team either.
Right. But
you need that. You need at least 1 or 2 of those type of players on your team, to be completely honest.
Now, I mean, the unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on Chandon Sullivan after that second fuck up on the, I'm not going to blame Sullivan for that. He has every right to be pissed, and I'd have probably done the same damn thing. So I'm not going to fault him for that one.
No, but yeah, man, Chris Boyd's a G, and he's been around here for a long time.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, he's a scrapper. I respect me some Chris Boyd. As long as he keeps the team first, I'm all right with that little bit of a attitude.
Yeah. Couple other little tidbits here, just some observations and thought. I mean, probably the most infuriating part of that game yesterday, falling down 33-0 aside, was that second half of that game, and we mentioned this a little bit earlier, proved how potent and formidable this team can be.
And it's like I told you yesterday, Rhino. We've seen the worst version of our team the first half.
Yeah.
We've seen the best possible version of our team, I believe, the second half of the game.
Yeah. But then, and I was thinking about this last night, kind of rewatching the game. I might have mentioned it to you, I don't remember, but looking at how the offense was playing with more urgency and everything else in that second half, maybe we need to run that more up-tempo type stuff more often. I'm not saying that we have to go to like the K-gun offense that Bills ran in the 90s.
At least they were running it, because a lot of the time during the Zimmer years, we didn't know what the fuck up-tempo offense was.
No.
Fucking 3 minutes left of the game and we're still huddling up and taking our fucking fancy ass time. We've been running up-tempo all year this year, and I've been liking it. There's been a couple of times where I'm like, maybe we need to tone it down a little bit because we're moving a little bit too fast than we should. But for the most part, it's ran pretty well.
But I mean, it seems like earlier on in the games we're not doing that, and I think if we did that more often, we probably could get away. Because it seems like when we're running up tempo, it's when the offense is getting more.
That is true, Rhino. But the thing is you don't want to have an offensive drive that's fucking 10 seconds long because you shoot off 3 plays and they don't do nothing for you.
We do that anyway. A lot of those 3 and outs.
Well, at least in those 3 and outs, we get a good 3 or 4 plays, and then we sputter out midfield, in my opinion, for the most part. But I mean,
we're still very high in the league as far as 3 and outs go, and a lot of those are
right.
But
yeah,
and I'm not, like I said, I'm not saying we need to go run and shoot.
It's a good tool to have in your tool belt.
But I mixing that in a little bit more early on,
and it keeps the defense on their heels.
It does. But then, I guess one more interesting statistic from that game that I have, and then if you don't have anything else, we'll move on. But in the history of the NFL, 123 years or whatever it's been, teams leading by 30 points or more at any point in time in the game had a record of 1,548 1-1.
Mm-hmm.
After Saturday, it is now 1,548 2-1. But anyway, you got anything else you want to hit on Saturday before we roll ahead? Oh, speaking of Saturday, also the first time that a coach was beaten on the day of his same name. So Jeff Saturday got beat on Saturday.
It's a good stat throw out there.
You know, it was there. It's a dad joke, so I had to throw it up.
No, I ain't got nothing else.
All right. So then with that, we'll move on to our weekly awards segment where, of course, we celebrate the good and the not so good from the previous week, starting out with the good and what we call our Badass of the Week award.
Who is that guy? Whoever he is one tough badass.
So who do you got for that, Lance?
I got KJ Osborne. He was the spark. He was the drug in the syringe in that second half of this game for this team. I love the fight in him as a player. And then also the fans that stayed until at the bank until the end of the game.
Yeah.
Came up huge at the end. That false start that Indy had that knocked him out of like going for it on fourth down. That was huge. And that was all because of the sound at the stadium.
Right.
That momentum swing and the fans was huge to this team in the second half. But yeah, Osborne as a player, and then just like I said, a huge shout out to the fans that stayed the entire game at US Bank.
For me, I was going to go KJ, but since you did, since there's other people that are deserving as well, I'm going to give it to Kirk this week. Career high in passing yards and standing tough in the pocket again, knowing he's going to get absolutely obliterated back there.
Couple of shoestring tackles that kind of fucked him on a couple of third down plays there where he might have been able to take off and get the first.
Yep. And
both of them are by Adofo. The shoestring, I mean, he had Kirk's number yesterday, but Kirk balled, like you said, he deserves that award.
So I'm going to give it to Kirk. Of course, then with the good, we also have the not so good in what we call our Red Foreman Award of the week.
Son, you don't have bad luck. The reason that bad things happen to you is because you're a dumbass.
So plenty of options here. What are you going with?
I'm going to go with Rager. I mean, the two big turnovers that Cousins, was given. It's all on Rager. There's plenty of bad that went around the first half of the game. I mean, you could almost give the whole team the Foreman Award that first half, along with the coaching staff. But as an individual player, and expectation-wise, I'm going to have to go with Rager. He had his chance to come in and shine, and he pissed down his leg.
Yep. And
granted, that was a good punt return that they called back on his ass, but
yeah, he did have a good punt return. But I'm going the entire first half team, coaching staff, players, the whole 9 yards. But credit where credit is due. They figured it out at halftime. They came back out and they got it done.
I truly believe at halftime this team had its aha moment of the season.
I hope so.
And I think we're going to see that unfold next week as well against the Giants. I think this team, he just had something that just went off in his head. I mean, and I even heard they were drawing up plays in the fucking dirt during the second half about what they were going to do. And O'Connell said personally he quit calling plays, just designed, but he started calling plays that were designed for players in general.
Yeah.
So who to get the ball to on certain moments. And he said he kind of, his play calling kind of evolved a little bit there in the second half as far as the season has gone.
Mm-hmm. And as far as O'Connell goes, I just want to quick mention his post-game locker room speech there. You watch this guy's speeches and stuff to the team after they win a game. How can you not want to run through a wall for that guy?
Night and day from last year, honestly.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, he was so fired up at the end. He was literally breaking up in his speech there to the team.
Emotional.
Yeah.
And honestly, I believe completely genuine.
Oh,
And
absolutely.
when you get somebody like that leading your team, players will run through walls for him.
Yeah, and the sky's the limit as far as where I think O'Connell can go with this team. So, but with
And
that,
Donatel, props to him too in the second half for getting it done finally and trying something different, and it worked. And I hope this is the defense that we see moving forward, because this is the defense that we need to see moving forward.
Absolutely. Credit where credit is due. We'll give Donatel credit because we ripped the hell out of him the last few weeks, deservedly so. But with that, we're going to move on to another one of our classic beer commercials. So head yourself on over to the fridge, grab yourself a cold one, crack it open, check this out, and we will be back in a minute.
Holiday greetings from Budweiser. The people who bring you Budweiser wish you and yours the very best of everything this holiday season.
All right, we are back, and now we move on to another Saturday game coming up this week as the New York Giants come to US Bank Stadium for the last regular season home game of the year. Now, again, we apologize for not having all the stats and stuff here because we're recording on Sunday night, and the Giants are currently playing, and I'm not even sure what the score is at the time. Doesn't really matter. But I guess rolling into this, as we mentioned earlier, Justin Jefferson needing 10 yards to surpass Randy Moss for the team record for receiving in a season. This is the record that Zimmer refused to get him last year, and he finished, 16 yards short or whatever it was. Also still on track for 2,000, as we mentioned. He needs to average roughly 126 yards per game over the next 3 to get it.
He's making a strong case for MVP too, just for votes.
Yeah.
I mean, man, he's probably not going to get it, but
we all know wide receiver is not going to win most valuable player. He could win offensive player of the year.
I'm not going to say it's not going to win because crazier things have happened. Just give yesterday, for example. But chances are he won't.
Yeah.
But I would just like to see him get a handful of votes because that's saying enough right there.
Yeah. Yeah, you're not wrong on that. But looking over on the Giants, Giants started out the season like gangbusters, but have significantly fallen off as in recent weeks. Old Danny Dimes has kind of come back to earth.
Coming back to who he is.
Yep. But I mean, they've, the key player we have to watch out for on that offense is Saquon Barkley, because
of course
everything runs. I mean, Barkley to the Giants is what Adrian Peterson was to us back in
great
the early 2010s in that area. But of course Barkley, in the short passing game, the run game, everything else, he is their main cog that makes everything work.
Yep.
The wide receiver core, not much to speak of there.
Below average core, I believe.
Yeah, Darius Slayton's a decent receiver.
And he hasn't really come along until this season, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
He had some moments last year, but
yeah. And other than that, I mean, you've got Isaiah Hodgins. I'm not even sure. I know
comparable receiving core to the Lions.
Yeah, or kind of what Indy was last week, probably with Pittman and so on. Giants also have the shell of Kenny Golladay as a backup receiver who
a lot that goes into that, I think.
Yeah.
What I mean, man, what a receiver for Detroit, but going over to New York and has done completely
he's done really nothing since he left Detroit.
But there's not very many receivers in the recent past that have done much of anything for New York anyway. So
no, this is true. But over on the defensive side of things, Giants have some pretty good players on defense. Of course, up front,
Andre Patterson revenge game.
Yep, up front you've got Aziz Ojulari up at defensive end. You know, the Giants run a 3-4 type scheme.
I would have liked to have gotten me some Wink Martindale last year instead of Donatel, but it's what it is.
Yeah. They've also got rookie Kayvon Thibodeau at the edge. He's played decent this year, hasn't been a dominant force, but I think he's got like 4 or 5 sacks and that kind of stuff. So he's somebody you got to account for. Beyond that, their secondary is, So, I mean, it's definitely a team I think we can make some hay on this week. As far as our normal tail of the tape goes, these numbers are going to probably fluctuate.
Be a little bit skewed.
But we'll give you the rough numbers on kind of where we sit after the Vikings played on Saturday and while
before the Giants played on Sunday.
Yeah, and these don't count for whatever the Giants did Sunday night. On offense, the Vikings are now up to 7th in passing. Giants are 28th. However,
it's good for our defense.
Yep. However, rushing, the Giants are 6th, and the Vikings are 28th. So basically, total yards and passing and rushing, we flip back and forth there.
Right.
Points per game, Vikings are up to 8th now. So we're top 10 scoring offense now, which, you know, is something that we've been wanting for the entire season. The Giants are...
We're coming around at the right time, Rhino.
Yep. Giants are sitting at 20th. Over on the defensive side of things, of course, the Vikings moved up this week to 31st. Now, granted, this isn't taking into account the Detroit game, so this is these numbers again are kind of iffy.
Yeah.
31st in total yardage. Giants not a whole lot better. They're 26th. Passing yards given up, Giants are 17th. Vikings are 31st.
Wow. Moved up a spot.
Mm-hmm. Well, we only gave up 170 yards passing to Ryan, so that helped.
But I mean, just over the last 4 weeks, that's hard to believe.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when we've been
actually moved up a spot.
Well, but I mean, you know, we were giving guys like Mac Jones and
Mike
White and
Jared Pink
and Jared Goff and everybody else. You know, we're throwing for over around 400 yards on us, damn near. But rushing yards, Giants have a good run defense. They're sitting 4th. Vikings are 15th right now. Then points per game, we are sitting at 27th right now. And the Giants are at 19th. So it's not a team that we can take lightly, but it is definitely a team, especially the way they're playing currently, that we should be able to take care of business against.
Last home game in the regular season as well.
Mm-hmm. Now the Giants are hanging on to a wild card spot by a thread, so
Detroit's going to catch up to them with that. I think it's going to be come down to Detroit or Washington getting that last wild card spot.
Right now, the Giants, the the NFC East holds all 3 wild card spots right now, the Cowboys, the Giants, and the Commanders.
Right.
Now, again, the results of the Sunday night game will alter that somewhat. Detroit
is making a strong case that they deserve to be in. And you know what? They are playing. They're arguably one of the best teams in the league right now, as far as
well, they've won 5 of 6.
Hotness goes.
They've won 5 out of their last 6. Now they started off 1-6, and now they've gone 6-1 since, and so they're now sitting at 7-7.
And they've hung with every team they played with this year.
Mm-hmm. Well,
so,
I mean,
gotta give hats off to Detroit.
We mentioned it in the preseason to keep an eye on Detroit. They were going to be a lot better than people thought they were going to be, and I even said it wouldn't surprise me at all to see Detroit be the second best team in this division, and right now they have the inside track for that. So,
no, right now they are the second.
They
best
are right now,
division.
yeah. I think mathematically, Green Bay still could surpass them, I think, but
that's not going to happen.
No, I don't think so either. But
not with the way the Lions are playing right now and how Campbell's got his team rolling.
Mm-hmm.
Eating kneecaps and shit right now for sure.
Yep. Anything else you want to hit on the Giants here? I know we apologize for being a little bit shorter of a preview this week, but circumstances and everything.
I'm sure you guys don't all mind that much anyways.
Yeah. I guess prediction time, then what do you think?
It's tough, man. I mean, look what happened this last weekend.
Mm-hmm.
But I honestly, and I truly believe at halftime against Indy, a switch got turned on. And I look for, and I've been preaching this all year, but genuinely, I believe we've finally found ourselves this season, and moving forward, this is going to be a completely different team, but in a good way. We found ourselves. I hope that Donatel keeps calling defense like he had that second half of the Indy game, trusting his players to run man, to run zone. I'm sick of seeing zone all game, every game. We need to see some more of that man defense and that trust that he should have in his players to go out and play the game of football.
Right.
In the offense, I think O'Connell had his moment to where it all just kind of came together and he figured it out. Not that his offensive play calling has been bad. He's had his moments where he's had a few bad play calls here and there. But I think moving forward, we're going to see a lot more consistency on both sides of the ball.
Yeah. Now, for me, like you mentioned with the defensive side of things, I don't want this to be a 1 week, see, we proved we can do it, and then we turn right around and revert back to the same bullshit we were doing before. You found out that you can, and
exactly,
Donatel, that you can trust your players to do this kind of stuff. You need to pump that aggressive level up, especially being the playoffs are now 4 weeks away.
I want to see a continuation of the end of this half.
Yes.
From this weekend, moving forward from here on forth. That's the team I want to see.
Yeah, that defense we saw in the second half of the Colts game is what I want to see as long as this team plays the rest of the season.
That was the best complimentary football I've seen us play all season. And that was the second half against Indy.
Yep. As far as the game goes, I think we do take care of business in this game. I'm not going
to give scores. I'm not going to give scores. Especially with our team, I can't give scores no more.
Yeah, it's probably a 1-score win because that seems like that's all we can do. But I do think we take care of business.
But you know what? I'm just as happy with the 1-score win as I am a double-score win. At this point in this season and the team that we got, take it for what it is and run with it.
A 3-point win it counts the same as a 30-point win. So
exactly,
as long as when that final gun sounds, we have more points on our side of the scoreboard than they got, that's all I care about.
And you know what? If we continue to do what we did against Indy that second half, and that it becomes who we are, we got some bright times ahead of us, ladies and gents.
We do. But I guess with that, we will move on. Once again, we have reached the best part of our show as we take a look at the players who have worn number 90 in Vikings history with another.
So many greats.
Yes, with this week's edition of Brunswick's Best. So why don't you roll that beautiful bean footage there, Lance?
Roll that beautiful bean footage.
I would like to say I have, some concrete number one player to wear the number 90, but I honestly can't come in this week and say that. We had some players that wore the number 90, but in a way, I want to say this is a list of honorary mentions, but we'll go with it. We'll go with what we got here. If it was my choice, it'd be one on the list and one honorary mention, but take it for what it is, and I'll let you decide. So, first on the list, Derek Alexander. Now, in terms of actual productivity, the best number 90 in the history of the Vikings would probably have to be defensive end Derek Alexander, or as most Vikings fans know him, the guy that the Vikings drafted in 1995 when Warren Sapp was right there to take.
Mm-hmm.
Seriously, could you imagine John Randall and Warren Sapp on the next to each other on the offensive line for a few years? Man, be insane.
Yeah.
So anyway, Sapp had some off-field issues, which steered the Vikings towards Alexander instead. I guess Alexander wasn't that awful, but he certainly wasn't what you would want from an overall 11th pick in the first round.
Mm-hmm.
He had 20 quarterback sacks in his 4 seasons in Minnesota, including 7.5 in 1998, which would be his final year with the team. He then moved on to play 1 season with the Cleveland Browns and was out of the league shortly after that. Derek Alexander, though the list is small, you made it this week. Coming in at number 2 on my list of players to wear the number 90, I got none other than Mr. Big Game himself, Fred Evans.
I actually like Fred Evans.
I did too. That's why he's on my list.
Yeah.
Honestly, a lot of people wouldn't put him on the list, but I liked he was dependable, and I believe there was more in the basket than what we've seen. So he played with the team as a rotational guy, a very good rotational guy, from 2007 until 2013. So he had some time here.
He was kind of like a Tom Johnson type player, kind of almost.
Yeah, not quite Tom Johnson level, but he was up there.
It's the same type of player.
Given more reps, possibly been that type of player for sure.
Yeah.
Evans was on the depth chart behind some pretty solid defensive tackles during most of his Vikings tenure, being the Williams Wall. But he was pretty solid when called upon. He managed to get on the field and start 6 games out of 94, and then played the rest on a rotation. Mr. Fred Evans, this week, you make the list of Brunswick's best. And ladies and gentlemen, short and sweet, that's all I got for you this week.
All right. And being that's all you got, that's all we have for this week as well. Again, want to thank everybody for watching. Reminder, the game is Saturday, Christmas Eve this week. Another Saturday game. So just a reminder again, we will have, of course, the show on the YouTube channel Saturday morning. It will be on the Facebook page as well. If you're, driving to relatives for the holidays or any of that, make sure you take us with. If you've not hit that red subscribe button yet, please do so. It helps us out a ton. It helps us build the brand and helps us bring more and better content for you guys down the road here. Beyond that, want to wish everybody a very Merry Christmas, and hope you enjoy your time with your families this weekend. Enjoy some Vikings football. Hopefully we'll be here again next week celebrating another Vikings win. If you're going to the game on Saturday, also remember this is a whiteout game. So they want you to wear white to the stadium. And I believe the team will be wearing its white uniforms as well. So little PSA there. But with that, why don't you take us out of here, Lance?
Man, we got some fighters on this team. This team is believing in itself. Everybody's counting us out. Everybody, all the media, they don't believe. So as a fan of this team, and what this team needs is its fan base to believe in it. And that's what I'm going to continue to do this year. And let's go get it done. Let's go to work and show the world what this team is capable of. With that being said, let's keep it rolling on Sunday.
Saturday.
Let's go.
Merry Christmas, everybody.